In a world so mad, we're so glad you tuned into Lady Probs.
Hello, Lady Probs fans, and welcome back. You are here with Brittany and Kaylee. We are two sisters who like to talk about all things Lady Probs, which means any issues that women deal with. We've probably experienced them by now, and we decided to start a podcast to talk about them. So, on today's episode, we would like to talk about living on your own for the very first time. And I find it interesting because I took the more traditional path, I would say, with college and roommates and moving out, where you just went completely untraditional. And it's really cool to see that alternative point of view as well, because you did the gap year, but you moved out at the same time. Whereas I moved out after going to college.
Yeah, I think the worst roommate in the entire world is your parents. Like,
Yeah. And like I was thinking about this too, right before the episode. And Kaylee and I love each other very, 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 very much, but we make the worst roommates. That's who I lived with after college. And I just, you know, you don't have to be best friends with your roommate, but you do have to get along and be civil with your roommate. And I think that's one area that we just don't get along.
I think like our relationship got a lot better once clothing and crushes were taken out of the picture, and then our
Yeah.
relationship like skyrocketed. But like, if you get us in a room with a pair of shoes, like, we will definitely be fighting with each other.
Exactly. So that brings us kind of to our topic and what happens when you are either going to college or maybe taking a gap year after high school and you decide to move out or after college. How does one choose whether to stay homebound versus trying out a new and exciting place to live? How did you come to that decision, Kaylee?
Honestly, like, on the last episode, we talked about, what's the next step after college? What are you going to do? And it's that question you ask yourself, like, what's my purpose in life? Who am I supposed to be? Because, I mean, we grew up in New Jersey and we went to a pretty relatively small high school where everybody knew you from kindergarten into high school, which is defining years of your life. Like, people will literally watch you growing up. And a lot of people come into their own personalities and into themselves in high school, and very specifically in college. Like, there's so many times where, like, coming home for the summer, you see someone from your high school and you're like, is that you? You have a full beard now. Whoa,
Yeah,
crazy.
do a double take in Walmart.
Right? And it's like I know some people really do love their hometown. Like, they love what it's about and stuff. And for me personally, I just didn't like it. Like, I hated it. I hated growing up with the same kids. I was just over it and I wanted something new. But my personality isn't necessarily fit for a city. Like, I know a lot of my friends moved away to New York City because it's relatively close and they like really grew into themselves. But for me, like, New York City, I knew would give me a panic attack.
Yeah.
So like, Burlington just seemed like the best in between of things I love to do, like being out in nature, and it was a little familiar to me. But I think that was really the defining thing for me, was like, I wanted to get out of my hometown, but how far away did I want to go and be on my own, and if I would be able to handle that.
Yeah, totally. And like, we've talked about going to the West Coast, and it's just the realization that I am not really a homebody, but I knew that once I got there, I would miss home. And to take the extra steps, like to fly home, just like wasn't, I wanted to be able to drive home if needed, or, if mom and dad came to visit us, like, is it accessible if something an emergency happened? Like, was it accessible enough where you could get there in a lesser amount of time? I think that was my factor. And also just Vermont culture in general.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
it
awesome.
it was a culture shock to me in that Vermont says that they're diverse, but they're really not. So, with any city, you definitely can experience culture shock because you're experiencing this new perspective for the first time. And I think that is the most exciting thing about living on your own is not so much you know, yes, it's exciting to like decorate your apartment and like meet new friends through roommates and, all that stuff. But it's more the learning how to be independent and you know, the ability to be alone is a very rare quality you find nowadays. And so, from my perspective, li- being on my own was actually that gave me the ability to find who I was as a person and who I wanted to be because I didn't have any other opinions, circling around me. It was
Yeah.
just me trying to become me.
And like I said before, the worst roommates you can have is your parents. And coming from experience, like our mom and dad are very chill, like people. When I went to community college, I lived with my parents for 2 years. And, I didn't have a curfew. As long as I had good grades and I had a part time job and I didn't crash the car, like they were happy with me. And we had a pretty open communication if I did need anything. But just like you can't do that independent thinking and you can't really find your way of how to be accountable with yourself. I think that's one of the biggest part of adulting 101 is finding out like what your priorities are, um being accountable. Like, did you make that doctor's appointment? Because nobody else is going to make it for you. Did you get your oil changed? Like, you have to remember to vote. Like, there's so many things that adults like have a mental checklist of that when you live with your parents, sometimes those extra, like, it's like, mom, I got it. Like, I got it. You don't have to remind me. It kind of just gets tangled and gross. And I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a point with mom and dad where I was like, look, I I appreciate your love and support, but I'm also a college kid living with my parents. Like, you got to give me some slack. Like,
Yeah. And I think it's important to also acknowledge that we were fortunate enough to have like in a really amazing home life growing up, but for some individuals, they may not be in a psychologically safe environment growing up. That may be their mode of survival is to get out of that place, whether it be,
Mhm.
so being able to find like-minded individuals to live with too, I think that is so important. And, making sure that when you do, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but, when you do pick a roommate, you're not just looking for, a one bedroom cutesy apartment with lots of natural light that your plants can grow, but like, who are you living with? Because, if you need a space that like if you want to, have a party or like, you work crazy hours because you work at a hospital or you need a home that's LGBTQIA friendly, like that is just as important. And being able to, recognize and kind of like decode people. I don't know. Like, I've had a lot of shitty roommates. Like, I will just say it right there. Like, I've had a lot of shitty roommates, and it wasn't so much that we were, like, we just didn't communicate. So, we had struggles that we had to work through, and they ended up becoming some of my closest friends. It just, living with people that are essentially strangers forces you to become a better communicator, become, more accountable person. You have to do your dishes, you have to make dinner for yourself. Like, nobody's going to get your ass off the couch anymore. Like, that's your job now. And just you're going to be a better person for it afterwards,
Yeah.
and yeah.
I don't think I've had any bad roommates per se. I just think living with other people in general, even if they're the most amazing person on earth, sometimes just having someone constantly in your space is just like, I need a breather. Like, I need
Yeah.
to be by myself. And for me personally, I need a very like quiet and calm environment. And thankfully, my partner provides that for me and we work it out. And also like living with quote unquote strangers or even like your best friend versus like living with a partner is way different. Cause
Yeah.
I think there's just another level of communication when you're living with a partner. But you also are almost like, I don't know. It's a strange dynamic.
It is. And like it can really like make or break a relationship, whether it be moving in with your significant other or moving in with your best friend. And the earlier you can talk things through, the better it'll end up. Like I've seen best friendships get totally destroyed by living with one another. Like look at us. Like, we are
Yeah.
two siblings that like really like we do not live well together. But we're good communicators with one another. It just didn't click. So that's super important, is to like make sure that the people that you're living with, like you set expectations for one another, and have that accountability, and respect each other's spaces, or lack of space. Like sometimes roommates want to be more interactive with one another. So if that's really what you want, you have to market yourself for that. I want roommates that will be my friends, not I want roommates that I'll keep quiet from 7 to 7, So it's really it's a very interesting time.
Yeah, I have to say having a diverse group of roommates have definitely pushed me to be more social too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so weird. And there's things that you don't even realize until you like live with a new person, like who uses the bathroom, like your work schedules, um, like when you're getting ready, uh, like are you okay like sharing makeup in the bathroom, like certain things like that, like what are you okay with sharing? And
Yeah.
people think it's stupid to make a house chores list, but it is necessary.
It is a savior. Like my partner and I, we have a system where like literally one day we went and we listed every single chore that we ever would have to do in the house. And what we did is we divided it by like likes and dislikes. We divided it by room, divided by like length, and made a pretty even list between the two of us. And so we switch off on and off every week. So one person gets break, one person is the cleaner for the week, and we kind of like switch back and forth. So it really is, seeing who takes out the trash. Like, those are the tiniest things that can become such problems one day if it's not communicated early enough. And like to your point, Kaylee, like I find it so the dynamics I've had with all girl roommates, and then when we lived with a boy, like that is so different. And I loved living with boys because
I do too.
it's easier. I don't know, there's
Yeah.
less drama, but they're tend to be messier, except my partner, of course. But
I don't think they're messier. I just think they're grosser. You
yeah,
know
like
what I mean?
to me, it's like, okay, you need to clean the entire toilet, not just like the
Just the
lid.
win. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's like having those expectations though, and talking about it. Like it's going into a living situation without any preconceived assumptions, I think, is the key. Cause like what you assume is clean may not be clean to another person, or, they were raised in a different house. So like it may be different. So making sure that there's a middle ground, and it's kind of like being in a relationship. Like sometimes you have to make compromises, and I personally hate doing the dishes, but I love cleaning toilets. I don't know why. It gives me like joy. So like that's something where like I don't do dishes, but I'll clean any toilet you ask me to. So sometimes it's just a matter of communicating like that, and then yeah, making a schedule.
Yeah. And then when you're not living with roommates, it's like once you get to that point where you can either live with a partner or live by yourself, it's like what else do you need to be accountable for? So Brittany and I are gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna be talking about, you guessed it, gym tan laundry.
Oh God, going back to my
Hashtag
Jersey Shore days.
Okay, Brittany, imagine this. A beautiful scenario where you are independent, you have a good job, you're making good money, you might have a dog or a cat, and now it's time to pick your own apartment. It's like, what are the 3 things you look for in an apartment?
So I think so living by myself, important things is making sure that I have enough space for this is going to be weird for me to say, but like, so if I know that I need to have an office area, I need to have a like a sensor, like a I don't want to say sensory deprivation, but like a truly relaxing space, and then like a social space, and then like a cooking space. Like I need to make sure that all of my activities that I am part of throughout my daily routine have its own space. So one of the best things my therapist like ever told me is don't have your TV be where you lay your head at night. And I think like that is something to consider. Like, if you cannot afford a 1 bedroom where your relaxation, mindfulness space, your bed space has to be in the same area. If you are, can only afford a studio, making sure that you have a space for everything, that you can truly like switch activities in your mind and focus in on that one activity, especially for somebody like me who does like 6 things at one time. Like, no, Brittany, now studying time, like you need to just focus in. So, having a space like that. Another thing is I refuse to go to a laundromat. For me, that's my thing. That is my need rather than my want. So
Yeah.
making a needs and wants list and saying, being realistic with it, my budget is $1,500 a month. Okay. Where in the world would I like to live? I think that's important. So like if your job can be remote, that's a different conversation. But wherever you're living in the world, for me, it's Burlington. Seeing what your lifestyle is. Do you like to go to bars? Do you you'd rather go biking? Do you do, I don't know, yoga on the beach? Would you rather be near the beaches? Would you rather be near the trails? So considering where your activities are and how close to like the downtown activities, because a house, I like to go to bars, but I don't want to be right in the college town. Like, and I know that college kids are walking around and being loud at night. Like living in a downtown area might not be suited. So looking for an apartment that is in the area that you want to live in is important. And making that needs and wants list. What can you live without? What is cool if you have? And then what is your absolute, like, what would you sacrifice something else to have? So for me, that's a washer and dryer. Like I could not live in a place that did not have a washer and dryer.
Yeah, I think I have like 4 or 5 go-tos. I need parking, like,
Yeah.
and I probably could live with street parking, but thankfully my apartment has a parking lot and I love that convenience. A dishwasher, like,
Oh, yeah.
yes. Also, we live without one and like we need it. Again, washer and dryer. I literally haven't done laundry in I think 2 weeks. And my solution to that is buying more clothes, which is very bad for the environment and bad for my wallet. And so it's so hard. I couldn't even imagine people who like haul all of their clothes to a laundromat. That's insane
No.
to me. Um I'm someone who needs either natural light or some kind of vintage charm. Like I freaking love vintage charm. Like I want to be able to do like a little apartment tour and be like, that was built in the 1800s. Like how cute. And then I guess 5th thing. Well, I can't remember it, so I guess it's not that important.
Exactly. And like, and making sure that you prioritize those needs too. So like if you only had in your budget where you had to choose between a dishwasher and a washing machine, what would you choose?
A washing machine, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
And
like having that understanding of like your lifestyle, and then, what could be sacrificed.
And like, obviously you have to consider your budget too. Like, and priority wise, like obviously I'm not going to prioritize like vintage charm over a dishwasher or something like that, right? But luckily enough, Burlington has like beautiful exposed brick like this. But like I watched this person on YouTube. Her name is Ashley, and she does like the best dressed YouTube. And so whenever she is looking for an apartment in LA or New York, she needs vintage charm as like her top priority, because she films all of her YouTube stuff in her apartment. So she needs like quiet and vintage charm. And I thought
Yeah.
that was so unique. I was like, wow, I didn't even realize like when you have like your apartment, especially during the pandemic, like you work from home, you need a space that makes you feel good and also like helps your job. So
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like it's really recognizing like what your priorities are. I think that's the key for picking an apartment. And then, if you could do it on your own, that's great. But, if not, like you may have to find roommates, and that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with it. I think that, living with roommates is such a blessing in disguise for learning all those skills that we talked about earlier. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and speaking of laundry, how I was like, oh my God, I can't believe people like haul their laundry down the street. Also, like, there are so many people I know who like don't know how to do their laundry. And that's like, there's such, it seems like no brainers. Like, that's why there's so many like self-help books of like adulting 101, literally books. But it's like, nobody knows what dryer sheets are. Nobody knows like how to separate their clothing. Like, especially I wash my clothes. Most of my clothes are delicate. So it's like, how do you do that? Like, how do you iron? Like, there's so many things. How do you sew? Even like, one big thing that I learned living by myself, and I didn't start doing this until I had a partner, was going to the gym. Like,
Yeah.
I would run on occasion, but now my body metabolism is really matching my age. and I just like, I had no idea how to go to the gym, and now I'm doing it. And it's like, what do you wear to the gym? How do you use the equipment? How do you even pay for it? Like, what? I don't know.
Yeah. And like it for me, what pushed me into learning, for me, it was how to cook. Like for me, it was like not overbuying fruits and vegetables, as in like buying enough so I would eat it, but not enough so I'd waste it. And to your point, like doing laundry, like for me, it was the recognition of like the money aspect. So, I could not cook today, but do I really want to spend $30 on takeout? Like, do I really have it? So that the financial independence, that's what helped me like catapult into adulthood. Cause I didn't go to college with like 1,000 recipes in my mind. I didn't go to college like I knew how to do laundry, but I was that person who never used dryer sheets. Literally until I was 25, I did not use dryer sheets. And it took like a few dresses being ruined to realize like, oh shit, like I probably should learn how to like
Or
actually
like
wash my delicates.
Google it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Googling it in the basement of your college dorm. Like,
Yeah. It's like, you like in Friends, for example, when like Rachel puts like the red sock in the machine full of whites, and it's like you kind of have to burn and learn. Like hopefully you learned before you moved out on your own. But sometimes you just have to burn and learn in order to learn. But fortunately, we live in a world where there's so much information at the tip of our fingers where, you may have to learn from YouTube Academy.
right. And also, another point is that there is no shame in not knowing how to do anything, right? Like, not like the first time I moved up to Vermont, my mom took me food shopping and taught me how to food shop and taught me how
Yeah.
to meal prep. And like, my partner and I didn't know how to cook. We ordered HelloFresh for the first 3 months of our relationship and learned how to cook together.
So did I when I was living after you moved out. That's how I knew a little bit how to, grocery shop, but HelloFresh really helped me cook the items, like what, how much salt to put, how much all this to put, like how to actually like make chicken to its, proper temperature.
Or like easy recipes you can have in the back of your mind
Yeah,
for
totally.
dinner.
Totally.
in the future too. Yeah. I like
Yeah.
never knew. And then the next step after cooking is like, how do you eat healthy?
Yeah. And I think that's what, like, I struggled with that and like COVID did not help. The pandemic did not help us. Like, there was all this talk about like helping small businesses. And I think we just took that a little too far, but now that things are starting to open back up and like it's a new year, once we got done with 2020, like 2021 was really like okay, let's not drink soda, let's drink water, drink half your body weight in water every day in ounces. I know that's a lot, but like that's what your body needs. So yeah, there's a lot to learn when you're living on your own, and you may not have learned everything yet. There's always a new thing that you're learning about yourself too.
Yeah, there's always like, whether it's laundry, cooking, or like working out, there's still things that even I'm learning today, like that I just like I didn't know how to turn on a barbecue grill or like change my oil at all. But that's literally adulting 101. And one of my favorite people told me this the other day. You know you're an adult when you get excited over dining room furniture.
Oh my God, yes. We're
That's the
getting new
test.
chairs next week and I'm so excited.
Right? Like when you're like, I think you're truly an adult when you're like on Zillow and you're like researching $1 million homes you can never afford.
Truth.
That's another sign.
So true.
Yeah, there's so many things that, like composting. I had to learn how to compost this year, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like who nobody teaches you this stuff in high school. Like I
Yeah.
know a lot of people want courses to be added again in high school of, personal finances. Like I did take a personal finances class, but it wasn't that good. They taught
Yeah.
us how to like fictionally grocery shop. And I'm like, I know what prices are. I need to learn what stocks are.
Yeah. And like one thing that I think is not talked about living on your own, and this is one thing that I still struggle with. Literally the other day I was thinking about this in order to bring it up in this episode, is once you're done with school, you have so much freaking free time. And
You do.
you're probably going through this now. Like that's literally why I signed up for grad school, because I was just so freaking bored. Like, how as young adults do you fill your time when you're not in work hours? And I think that is so important to focus on, is like getting into routine. Making sure you have a skincare routine. You're not going to be in your 20s forever. Please, dear God, moisturize, like wear freaking sunscreen, take care of yourself. Go to the gym, or if you can't afford a gym, or that's okay. If you have enough space to put a yoga mat in your living space, that is okay. Even just going for a walk, just get your body up and moving. um you know Meal prep. Meal prepping helps you not overspend, and it helps you get into routine, and um you know has healthy advantages as well. And like, you these are skills that will help you for the rest of your life. Yeah. And then, picking up a hobby, now's the time. Do it. You've always wanted to learn how to tap dance. Girl, sign up for a freaking class. You've got this. Like, what is stopping you? Literally nothing.
Right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but on that note, we are going to be talking about when you are living alone, how do you fill your free time? Like, what are you doing? We don't know. We just don't know.
So, being alone, when was the last time you were alone, Kaylee? When was the last time and how did you spend your alone time?
Um, dude, I don't know. So since I just graduated college, now I've kind of had some free time before I start my part-time job again. And I think I promised myself 7 times this week that I was going to either get up and do a workout routine, or I was going to walk down to the park and read my book. I didn't do any of that. I just sat and applied for jobs. it's like really hard to get yourself up and going, especially, I'm going to be honest right now, during COVID, it has definitely made me a little bit more anxious of people and around the world. Like, it's definitely like my apartment is my safe space. And honestly, too, like going out by myself as a young woman, I get talked to all the time. And by people I don't want to be talked to. Like, I think actually the last time I was alone was my partner went mountain biking and I ordered myself takeout because, like, treat yourself. And I went to go and walk and pick it up. And when I was walking back, there's these three older uh, gentlemen who, like, I knew it. I knew it was coming. I knew it. I just tried to look down and like mind my own business. And one of the people said hi to me and I had my mask on. So I just kind of was like nodded. Cause it's like, you don't want to be rude, but also like, you don't want to encourage anything. And then I heard them laugh and be like, wonder where she's going. And I'm like, please just don't acknowledge my presence. Just please, can I be invisible for once in my freaking life?
I think so. I don't even know if you noticed this. I'm just going to point it out anyway. You called them gentlemen. No.
I just like,
no.
I don't know.
No,
I
they do
say
not
that
deserve that title.
I'm just so polite that I'm like, everybody is a good soul. Like, everybody is amazing. We should all be polite to each other and kind in this world. And then I have
Yeah.
people who are like saying weird things to me. Then, yeah.
Uh.
Anyway, that's another episode though.
I think, even when you have a partner or you've been in a long-term relationship, or even if you're in that honeymoon phase of a new relationship, alone time is still so important.
Yes.
Like, there is a philosophy out there that says, you know, two halves becoming a whole is not really, that's not really how humans were made to be. But instead, it should be like thinking of like a vanilla and chocolate twist, like two whole flavors coming together to make like an even better, creamy,
Oh,
for
I
lack of
love
better
that.
words. So I think that's something to remember too, where, even if you're in a codependent relationship, but like making sure that you know who you are as a person and that doesn't get lost, because like really on this earth there's only one you. And like I guess that's something that like I've always held close to my heart, is like my first and foremost is like no matter what relationship I'm in, like I can't lose sight of who I am as a person. Because what if that relationship doesn't work out, like God forbid, even if you're the most perfect couple in the world and you'll go that distance,
There's always the
you
what if.
yeah, you never know what's going to happen. And like, it's okay to reinvent yourself over time. I think is an important lesson too, is like, even if you're, I say this to myself and it sounds so stupid coming out of my mouth right now, but like constantly I'm like, oh, I'm 26. I'm too old to do that. Like, Brittany, you're 26 years old. Like, you're not too old to do that. Even if you're friggin' 99, you're not old to do that. You're still on this earth. Like, you know, being alone and like being able to find things that you like to do that give you joy, that as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you are solely focused on yourself, I think, you know, go take that class, go take your bike and go ride 5 miles down the thing and, into the woods and see what, like be
Mhm.
safe while doing it. Don't be stupid, but like, you know, there are so many times where like, if you don't do it later on, you're going to be like, why didn't I do that? Like, I wish I knew what was behind that closed door.
Yeah. For me personally, I'm just one of those people that hates being alone. Like, I love having somebody else with me, whether it's a best friend or somebody I'm in love with. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I do recognize though that it is important to have me time. And I'm always one who, like with the gentleman example, I'm one that like gives myself to other people a lot of the times. And I'm learning to almost like be a little selfish sometimes. Like, it's okay to like care about myself and put myself first
Yeah.
sometimes. So that's like a big reminder for me. And Yeah, I'm learning, and it also gives you the opportunity to miss people, you know?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like my partner and I were talking about this the other day. Like COVID for us was a blessing in disguise. Like, yes, we've had our rocky times. We're not a perfect couple. Like, we've only almost broken up like twice. It's fine. We made it through. But like it was a blessing in disguise for us because it forced us to spend more time together. And then we then had our own hobbies that before it was almost like we were spending too much time independently, but then COVID like forced us together. So then we were able to like work through these problems. And like going back to the whole roommate thing, like your next best friend might be your roommate, but you haven't fixed the like gotten through like the tense parts. Like the thing
Mhm.
about a relationship is like it's hard work, no matter if it's your partner, no matter if it's your roommate, no matter if it's your parents, who you're living with. But how you fix situations and communicate situations and like try to collaborate to find a solution is the key to making any, living situation work. Unless it truly is, there are those outstanding situations where, it's like, psychologically unsafe. That's not those situations. But if you are in you know, a typical like you're just getting to college for the first time and you're placed in a random room with a complete stranger who, you know, you have never met or never talked to, like that's an opportunity to really like learn those soft skills that will then, make you even more successful throughout life. So, and to your point, Kaylee, like being able to reset yourself is so important. Like I think of the analogy, there's an analogy out there that like picture a flower vase, right? And if your flower vase is full of water and all your people that you are in your circle are all around you and you pour the water onto them and they start to grow, like you help them grow, you help them grow, you help them grow. Eventually, if you just pour all your water out, you're going to dry up and the vase will be empty. But if you're able to, pour the water into you, like, reset your mind, do some mindfulness, do activities that bring you joy, eventually the vase will become overflowed. And instead, the water will fall onto the seeds anyway and still help them grow. And you're still plenished with water. So, like, being able to, in your living situation, find a space or find activities that really bring you joy and bring you happiness, it will make all the difference.
Yeah. And if you're someone like me who doesn't really like being alone, um, get a pet, get some plants, get a goldfish. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Something to take care of.
yeah, we always grew up with two dogs, and when I was going to college, like our parents would often, they're in their empty nesters phase, so they would go on camping trips and go out with their friends and enjoy their couple time, and I would be home with the dogs, and I would love being home with the dogs. It was just another something to like get me out of the house, to have some companionship. My cat now does that for me too, even though I can't bring him to like a park or anything. but
Mhm.
but I think like having a hobby, having something to take care of as well, that brings you joy. Like I love having house plants. I'm not very good at gardening, but as I learn, as I accidentally kill plants, I nourish that part, and then it's so exciting when something actually grows and you're like, "Whoa, didn't know you could do that. I did that for you. That's cool."
Yeah. And like uh also, not only having something, but something to fill the space as well. So like
Mhm.
putting on music for me in the morning, Sunday mornings, my thing is like going downstairs and doing like a speed clean of the living room. And I just like put on music and I just, make breakfast for myself. I love that. That's like my me time, or, white noise, you have those little machines that do like the waves crashing or,
Mhm.
reading an audiobook, putting an audiobook in your headphones and like walking around the house like that. is, filling up the space. And so that might, there's ways to trick your brain, into thinking you're not alone.
Yeah. And it's like also you do need to socialize with real human beings. So
Yeah.
joining clubs are also great, especially like volunteering. I
Yeah.
volunteered at an art gallery and I made so many new friends from that. That was awesome. And I was doing something I loved. I love like being in art and talking to like old French Canadians from Montreal who was visiting pre-COVID. Um, and yeah, like joining a kickball team, doing virtual yoga, like those are all great things. We have mentioned yoga a lot this episode.
I
Very
know.
yoga centric episode.
Yeah.
And then also like not only if you do want to join a club, that's amazing. But something that I've struggled with, I think like our mom specifically, she is a very much a go-getter. She was an only child, so she kind of had to entertain herself growing up, so she's always like doing something. And uh for me sometimes socializing can be exhausting. And I remember when I was on my own and my dad called me one morning and he was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just like in bed and it's noon." And I was like, "I feel bad because I feel like I should be doing something." And my dad was like, "Kaylee, you're an adult. If you want to do nothing, you can do nothing. Like
Yeah.
nobody's around to tell you can't do nothing. Like you're good. If you
Yeah.
want to do something, go ahead, but like you don't need to do anything." And I have come to terms with the fact that like I'm allowed to rest. And sometimes that
Yeah.
means like sleeping till 1 in the afternoon.
I was scrolling through Instagram the other day and I saw this post that I had to screenshot for this episode specifically because I loved it so much. And credit goes to the people pleasing therapist because they came out with a list of alternative sayings to say, I did nothing. And I want to read them. So, first one is, I rested. I chose not to make plans. I recovered from the week/day. I shortened my to-do list. I had a mental health day. I took a nap. I watched the TV I love. I had a day with myself. I recuperated and I had some time out. I think that there is such a stigma to saying I did nothing. I know I feel guilty on Monday mornings when I'm in a Zoom meeting and they're like, "Oh, what did you do weekend?" And I'm like, "Great, now I have to make something up
Cried.
to make myself seem cool." Yeah. And I would say like, "Oh, I did some spring cleaning," which is totally not true half the time. But, it's okay to reset, you're in the middle of a pandemic, it's stressful enough trying to find an apartment, try to find roommates, trying to move, trying to, get your life situated. It's okay to give yourself a break. You probably need it, you know? Listen to your body. Make sure that you are drinking plenty of water, make sure that you are eating enough, make sure that you are being accountable for your own body because you only get one. Yeah.
Yay. Well, I'm about ready to do nothing for the rest of the day. How about you,
Same.
Brittany?
I have a little bit of homework to do, but I can promise you that I will be doing nothing for the rest, not doing nothing. I will be recuperating in preparation for stressful work tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
going to watch my TV after this.
Good.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lady Probbers, for tuning in and hearing our stories about how we became full adults by enjoying our dining room furniture. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, watch us on YouTube, listen to us on Spotify, anywhere you can hold your cell phone in front of your face, you could probably find us. So we love you and we cannot wait to publish our next episode. So tune in, listen, and follow us.
Bye.